Hey, Mark DeJesus here. I'm the author of a book entitled I Will Not Fear. I'm so passionate about helping people to overcome fear in all its various forms, and one of the ways that it manifests is in our relationships, in social anxiety or social phobias. And I want to give you 10 tips about what you can do to set yourself up for success, because relationship interaction is the context by which God grows us, teaches us to overcome, and it's how we experience love. So no wonder fear will want to get into the equation to trap you and keep you from the fruitfulness of what God has. Now, I want to say this up front. We all have areas that we got to work on when it comes to relationships. Whereas people with social phobias may withdraw, or if they have social anxiety, they may back away. Others try too hard and they overcompensate. They talk too much or they do too much to try to feel better or to feel safe. So we all have areas on the spectrum where God can get us more grounded in peace and confidence and knowing that we can just be ourselves. And that's really the goal that I want to encourage you into. Now, before I get into the 10 things, I also want to make it clear too, this isn't just about you. A lot of people that you interact with, they're not the easiest to interact with. I mean, there's people in social settings who they'll ignore you. There's people who will overtalk. There's people who will hijack, monopolize conversations. There's the overtalker. There's the one who has to impress everyone. There's the ones who never ask you any questions about yourself. They make it all about themselves. So there's a lot of factors that go into this. So you got to be kind to yourself. You got to be patient with the process, because growing in this is something that takes practice, it takes time. So here are some 10 thoughts I just want to give you in the area of social anxiety and social phobias to help you to learn to overcome. Again, get a copy of my book, I Will Not Fear, because it'll lay the foundation where you can gain more ground and get some more victory. The first thing is be aware of the patterns that you fall into socially. What I mean by that is get an honest assessment of, if you're in a social setting, whether it's a gathering or at church service or at work or around people, what's the pattern you go into? What's the mindset that dominates that situation? And what do you typically do? Because the more you're aware of your patterns, the more you're going to be able to realize, I need to create new patterns. And once you create some new patterns and you find some wins, then you're going to gain a lot of momentum, and then you'll be able to develop your confidence back. I remember the day where a social anxiety thing broke, and it really just came out of me practicing and being patient with my journey. But I recognized my patterns. So what are the patterns that you fall into? Because those condition us, they create a grid for our life, and we just kind of fall into them like dominoes. And then we beat ourselves up and all those kinds of things. The second thing I would say is be aware of the labels that you put on yourself as a result of your social anxiety or social phobias. Beware of saying, well, I'm just an introverted person. Now, I hear you. I get that. I have major introverted kind of tendencies in my own life. But I made the decision that I was not going to allow that to be a limiting label on my life that would cause me to withdraw out of fear. I don't want to use certain labels that keep me limited in my relational potential. Another one is, I'm just not a people person. A lot of people say that, right? And what it does, it often just gives us a ticket to not deal with people, to just not deal with our social issues. And listen, I get it. So if you have days where you go, I'm done with people, I get it. I understand. Sometimes it's rough out there. But beware of where you say those things that create limitations on your potential. Number 3 is really simple, and that is, you're going to need to have a value for relationships. You're going to need to value the importance of interaction. For a long time, I avoided certain intimate interactions or close interactions with people because it was just too much work, and I didn't want people to get to know me because I had shame that if they got to know me deeper, they may not like me and they'll reject me. So I just stayed busy. Kind of fell into the Martha syndrome of Mary and Martha story in the Bible. Just stayed busy because then I wouldn't have to deal with any rejection or any hurt. So I had to make a value for relationships. I'd say, you know what? I got to slow down. I got to take the time for this, because otherwise you're not going to have value for the breakthrough, and you're not going to have the value of what God wants to do relationally, because He'll send people into your life that He'll use relationally to help you to break through, heal, or overcome. Number 4 is beware of the core thought patterns and beliefs that keep you from relating effectively. Usually, it's the fear of rejection. Usually, it's shame, fear of shame coming in, the fear of vulnerability, the fear of looking weak, the fear of looking less than, the fear of being disrespected, all those kinds of things that just keep us and they hold us back. Maybe in a social setting, you have a fear of, what if I have nothing to say? What if I panic? What if I get into a social setting and all of a sudden I want to get out of there? And all those kinds of things kick up, or maybe we get self-obsessed and we're so aware of what's going on in us that we're not able to relate to people. So get honest about them. Write them down and go, okay, these are things I got to do business with. And so number five is face those fears. Face those areas. We're going to have to confront them to realize, okay, these things are an enemy of my social interactions. They're an enemy of being able to be effective in social settings. So I'm not going to just allow them to drive my life and dictate what I do anymore. Number 6 is probably the most important of this whole thing, and that is practice, practice, practice. You have to give yourself permission continually to practice, because there needs to be a conditioning in your body, your mind, your spirit, that you are safe, and it takes time for that to get into your physiology. It takes time for that to get ingrained in your thoughts, that I'm okay and that I'm safe. You got to give yourself time to be able to practice out the safety and peace that God has for you. Now, don't expect peace to land on you and then you're going to go into social settings. No, you've got to do it afraid. You've got to do it afraid and go into the setting and learn to keep practicing and keep practicing. Then peace will come as you keep exercising it. Sometimes people say to me, well, Mark, I don't want to fake it. Because they go, well, I got to fake it till I make it. They say, well, I want to fake it. And I say, you're not faking it. You're practicing. Don't feel you're being a hypocrite by going, I'm going to step in there and exercise my confidence even though I don't feel confident. Now you're practicing it. Allow yourself the time and patience to be able to just practice this, to walk this out. Sometimes in session work with people, I would literally have a hypothetical scenario. And I'd say, okay, walk out of the room. And we're going to role play, and I'm so-and-so, and you're yourself, and I'm this person, and I want you to walk in, I want you to practice. And they'd walk in, we'd practice shaking hands, making eye contact, and having interactions. I'd say, all right, let's do a couple rounds of this. Try some different things. Allow yourself the ability to practice. It's the only way we're going to break through. Number 7, this is an important adjustment. You got to get your mind off of focusing on yourself. If you're in a social situation, fear creeps up, and you start looking at that fear, navel-gazing, looking inward, you're done. Because once you self-focus, you're just going to magnify that fear, empower it, and now you're not mindful of anyone else in the social setting. And it's going to sabotage your ability to relate. So get the focus and the attention off of yourself and out to other people. Number 8 is important, and that is you want to get out of your head, get out of focusing on yourself. And how do you do this? Think about the other person. Get totally focused on who's the person that you're talking to. Get out of thinking about yourself, of how do I look, how am I coming across, how's my hair, how's my voice coming across, am I nervous, am I not nervous? Get out of self-introspection and all that, and get focused on the other person. You cannot genuinely love someone else, think about someone else, while focusing on yourself at the same time, right? Now remember, love is a flow. So this is the time not to think about all your issues or things. This is the time to focus on the other person. I would suggest, if you're going to a social setting and you know someone's going to be there, do some homework on them. Maybe glance on their social media and say, oh, they took a vacation. I can ask them about the vacation. Have some things in your arsenal that you can ask that they would love to talk about or they'd love to share. Hey, how's the kids going? I saw that you went on this trip. Or hey, Mark, you have a new book you came out with. How's the book sales going? Or thinking about the person that's in front of you and get into their world. Now, I've learned that in social settings, people who have social anxiety can tend to hang back and they scan the room. They're like always just watching the room. A lot of people with fear relationally, relational fear issues, they will kind of at a party take the laid back posture and just kind of scan the room, and they're analyzing everyone. And it's a self-defensive mechanism of like, oh, look at that person, this person. If you leave a party or social gathering and you have like this scanning evaluation of every single person there, you probably didn't socially interact very well. A very healthy interaction at a party or a gathering is you have a handful of people that you had quality interactions with. Yes, you have the, hey, how are you doing? 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 And then you kind of narrow in and you have those handful of people that you had great interaction. So when you leave that party, you say, I had a good interaction with so-and-so. It was a great interaction with this other person. How about you? How did that go? That's the place you want to be, because that's the facing the fear kind of zone that we really need to be living in. Number 9, and this is the social weapon of all weapons. Become somebody who knows how to ask good questions. Ask people questions about themselves. The greatest subject that people love talking about is they love talking about themselves. They love talking about their kids, their work, their spouse. They love talking about where they live, their latest project they were working on, the latest thing that they were doing. So, like I said before, maybe you want to do a little homework on them, or if you get a clue into something that they do for a living or something that's unique about their life, ask them. Become fascinated. Become a student. If I meet someone who has a certain calling or career or work that they do, I'm going to learn. This is a free opportunity for me to learn about what they do and just become fascinated about it. Get out of your head, get into their world, and ask them great questions. And keep practicing. And if you goof and ask something silly, say sorry for the stupid question. Celebrate attempts. Don't celebrate just perfection. Celebrate that you took a step, you put yourself out there, you gave it a shot, and you tried, and you made it an attempt. The more you celebrate that, and not how perfect it went, or, maybe you ask somebody and they don't want to talk, and they give you one-word answers. Yes, no, yes, sometimes. Like, okay, this person's not the greatest person for me to practice on, right? And then you move on and take your piece. Number 10 is one that I would give you that I've never heard anyone say this, but I would say it, is give yourself social breaks in the midst of social gatherings. Maybe say, hey, can I use the restroom for a second? And take a breather. Maybe you say, go outside, right? Take a break for a moment. Sometimes people get overwhelmed. People I've worked with, they'll have like, oh, I had panic. Panic came over me. I got overwhelmed and I was like, I got to get out of here. I got to go home. You may not need to go home. You may need to just take a break. Go, hey, could I just step outside for a second? There's nothing wrong with taking a minute. Sometimes I would be in the gathering and I'd walk over into a side room while I'm sipping some ice water or something, and I would just take a break and then re-engage again. Remember, you got to be patient with yourself. Allow yourself to practice, and from glory to glory, allow yourself to get little victories, one at a time, that build into the big breakthroughs. Keep practicing, and I know God will meet you in this, and He'll show Himself strong in it. God bless you.